Skip it up and that up. So there's a Japanese Super Famicom game called Umahari Kawase. It took me like 12 takes to say that name. And it's a really interesting game. It's a game series over in Japan. It's done well, where think of Bionic Commando, except with a Japanese schoolgirl as the main character. And instead of using like a bionic arm, she uses a fishing hook to connect to walls and climb up platforms. It looks actually kind of cool. Okay, I'll have a link to a Classic Game Room review of that game. You can check it out in the description below. Well, there's a Twitter user from Japan named Wanakun who showed his Super Famicom with Umahari Kawase in it. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, Rich, who cares? The game's probably a dime a dozen over there. What's the big shit? He's showing his Super Nintendo, or Super Famicom, I should say, with the game in the system. Well, according to him, the game has been in the system for 20 years because he doesn't want to lose his save state, and he's kept the Super Nintendo on for 20 years straight, supposedly. Here is his exact tweet. Well, his exact tweet translated, I should say. Incidentally, I'm pretty sure my first generation Umahari Kawase, which has been on in the SNES for over 20 years, has been in operation for over 180,000 hours. If the power is turned off, I'll lose all my replay data, probably. So you young whippersnappers out there are probably thinking, Rich, why on earth would he lose his save data? Well, back in my day, you had batteries in your cartridges that saved the save data, and when the batteries died, the memory would be erased. Actually, they would moved on to memory that didn't require batteries. But yeah, there was a time like in The Legend of Zelda for the original Nintendo, they had batteries inside the cartridges. That's how your save states were saved. And once that battery died, guess what? You lost all of your progress in the game. But I'm smelling some serious bullshit. Now, here's a picture of him showing his Super Famicom with Umahari Kawase in it. Okay, whoop-de-doo. Yeah, he has the game and he has the system. But dude, you're telling me, now I understand that the United States power grid is absolutely terrible. You don't believe me, you could look it up. It's god-awful and it's nowhere near other developed nations around the world. But you're telling me in 20 years, you never had a power hiccup that would shut that Super Nintendo off. I just don't buy it. I don't care how reliable your power grid is over in Japan. You're telling me that there was no circuit breaker that was shut off in your house. Someone didn't trip on the cord. There's no possible feasible way that for 20 years you had continuous stable power to that system where you could keep your save game. There's nothing you could tell me that will make me believe it. You could personally message me. Well, there's no way you could prove it. Obviously, the light's on, but you could have just turned the light on 10 minutes ago. I just don't buy it. I think this guy just, he was looking to get an article, and here it is. He has an article made about him showing his Super Famicom with the game. Now, if it is true, I'm more shocked that he just hasn't lost power in 20 years. And I'm not even talking, okay, he may have, perfect power. His power grid could withstand anything where he lives in Japan. But there's so many other variables, like the power supply to the SNES, or Super Famicom, dying. That too. The power supply didn't take a shit within 20 years. Now, I know the SNES was built well, minus the whole yellowing plastic issue in the States, and I think even with the Super Famicom happened too. But even reliable power supplies take a shit after like a decade or something like that. It depends. It depends on the build quality, so on and so forth. Too many variables here, man. I'm going to call bullshit on this guy. I just think he made up some ridiculous story to get in an article, and here he is. We're talking about him right now. So leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you believe that this guy has had his SNES on, or Super Famicom, I should say, force of habit, I'm from the States, for 20 years straight? Do you think it's possible, with all the variables I just mentioned, the power simply going out, a circuit breaker, going off in the house, the power supply dying, someone tripping on the power cord, with all the different, there's a billion other things that could happen too. Do you think that his Super Famicom could have possibly stayed on for 20 years straight? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and as always, thank you for supporting my channel. Have a good one.